Meet Julia Pastrana, also known as hybrid bear woman or ape woman, while others called her the ugliest woman in the world. Julia Pastrana was a performer and singer in a circus during the 19th century who had hypertrichosis. Hypertrichosis is an abnormal amount of hair growth over the body. The two distinct types of hypertrichosis are generalized hypertrichosis, which occurs over the entire body, and localized hypertrichosis, which is restricted to a certain area. Hypertrichosis can be either congenital or acquired later in life. The excess growth of hair occurs in areas of the skin with the exception of androgen-dependent hair of the pubic area, face, and axillary regions. Julia was born in August 1834 in Sinaloa, Mexico. Her face and body were covered with straight black hair, her ears and nose were unusually large, and her teeth were irregular. The latter condition was caused by a rare disease, undiagnosed in her lifetime, gingival hyperplasia, which thickened her lips and gums. Julia was working as a servant girl to the governor of Sinaloa, Mexico, when Mr. M. Rates discovered her and saw the potential in her. He eventually became her handler, realizing she would earn him lots of money. He then started showing her to the public. A quote from the Times stated her as the great freak of nature. The newspapers of the day said she was hideous, but in her favor she had a very nice singing voice. In 1854, she eloped with Theodore Lent, marrying him in Baltimore, Maryland. Lent took over her management, and they toured throughout the US and Europe. Julia was then advertised as a hybrid between an animal and a human and worked in sideshows and freak shows under the stage names the Baboon Lady, the Dog-Faced Woman, the Hairy Woman, the Ape-Faced Woman, the Ape Woman, the Bear Woman, and the Nondescript. During her performances, she demonstrated her intelligence and talent, singing, dancing, and interacting with the audience. In her lifetime, Pastrana's management arranged to have her examined by doctors and scientists, using their evaluations and advertisements to attract a larger audience. One doctor, Alexander Mott, M.D., certified that she was specifically the result of the mating of a human and an orangutan. Another, Dr. S. Brainerd of Cleveland, declared that she was of a distinct species. Francis Buckland stated that she was only a deformed Mexican Indian woman. Samuel Neeland, a comparative anatomist of the Boston Society of Natural History, declared that she was human and of Indian descent. As per Charles Darwin, he said, Julia Pastrana, a Spanish dancer, was a remarkably fine woman, but she had a thick masculine beard and a hairy forehead. She was photographed, and her stuffed skin was exhibited as a show, but what concerns us is that she had in both the upper and lower jaw an irregular double set of teeth, one row being placed within the other, of which Dr. Perlin took a cast. From the redundancy of the teeth her mouth projected, and her face had a gorilla-like appearance. During a tour in Moscow, Julia gave birth to a son, with features similar to her own. The child survived only 3 days, and Pastrana died of postpartum complications 5 days later. Her husband, Theodore Lent, sold her corpse and her baby son to a professor of Moscow University. He dissected them and then mummified them so that they could be put on display. After a few months perfecting the process, he put them in the museum of the university, where they attracted great crowds. Lent purchased them from him and began exhibiting them throughout Europe. He later found another woman with similar features, married her, and changed her name from Marie Bartle to Zenora Pastrana, becoming wealthy from her exhibition. For over 100 years, the bodies of Pastrana and her son were displayed around the world in museums, circuses, and amusement parks. In August 1976, vandals broke into the storage facility and damaged her baby's body, then the remains were consumed by mice. Julia Pastrana's body eventually ended up in a storage room at an Oslo research institute, and after learning of the body's whereabouts, visual artist Laura Anderson Barbata campaigned to have it returned to Mexico. Laura told the New York Times, I felt she deserved the right to regain her dignity and her place in history and in the world's memory. Hoped to help change her position as a victim to one where she can be seen in her entirety and complexity. After 150 years, it was reported in Aftempistan that Pastrana would finally be buried in Mexico at an unspecified date. In February 2013, with the help of Sinaloa State Governor Mario Lopez Valdez, New York-based visual artist Laura Anderson Barbata, Norwegian authorities, and others. The body was turned over to the government of Sinaloa and her burial was planned. Hundreds of people attended her Catholic funeral, and her remains were buried in a cemetery in Sinaloa de Leyva, a town near her birthplace.